Hi, it's Sarah from Madam Premier, and welcome to my podcast, The Briefing Note. Let's dive into today's issue that I'm going to be talking about is Canada Post. When I talked about rebranding the podcast, I said that one of the things that I had wanted to cover was if possibly the Canada Post strike would cause the death of Christmas cards. I talked to someone in the store today who said that they had theirs sitting at home waiting to go out whenever the strike ends. Whenever I go into stores, not only my own, but other people's, from small businesses to big businesses, what do I see lining the shelves, relatively untouched? Christmas cards. Why would you? I would love to know how much the sale of Christmas cards has declined as a result of the Canada Post strike, because why would you even buy them if you can't send them? Not only like in Canada, but like outside. You can't, if you have relatives in Germany, sorry, you can't do that. Everything is on hold in terms of letter mail, unless you're willing to send something, which is crazy, right? The cost of sending something by FedEx, Purolator, UPS, letter mail as a parcel, the cost, anyways, it just doesn't make sense. But finally, on Friday, it seems that the federal labor minister, Steve McKinnon, someone broke through, if it was someone or something. He announced that the Canadian government is asking the Canada Industrial Relations Board, the CIRB, to order workers back on the job because there is a stalemate in negotiations. As someone who has been receiving updates from Canada Post for, I'd say, at least a couple of months now on the status of negotiations, I can honestly tell you it was very clear that there was an impasse long before Friday. He said, quote, "Not only have the parties been unable to show any progress towards an agreement, the federal mediator has now informed me that the negotiations between both parties are now, in fact, going in the wrong direction." Oh my God, the wrong direction. Yes, thank you, Minister McKinnon. They are going in the wrong direction. The fact that we were able to get to a month-long strike in December, the busiest month of the year for small businesses, this should have never been allowed to happen. It was clear, as I said, it has been clear for a long time that there was an impasse, a stalemate, whatever you want to call it, a breakdown in communications between the two sides, and that this was not going to get solved. And the federal government's approach to this was, well, we'll just see what happens. And honestly, this is where the politics of it comes into play. I mean, everything is political, but this is especially because, they've, in every other conflict between a union and government this year, there's had to be intervention. So why they thought this case would be any different, but obviously next year, 2025, there's going to be an election at some point. So I think their hesitancy to get involved because of that was clearly a factor. Why piss off people you're going to be asking for their votes for or from if and you're going to be making them unhappy because they're not going to be getting what they want. I'm sorry, but as much as someone who supports, I've never been in a union, but I support the idea of unions and what they do to advance not only workers' rights for their union members, but for everyone else. Like things that we have so many things to thank unions for. But I don't know how long they thought they were going to let this ride, the strike with Canada Post. It's just bananas to me. And and it's not that any of these things haven't been very clear. From a May 3rd, 2024 press release issued by Canada Post, it said Canada Post reports $748 million loss before tax for 2023. Quote, "Changing needs of Canadians drive losses as transaction mail volumes fall and parcel revenue does not make up the shortfall." Like it couldn't have been or is more crystal clear. Their business model and the way that they've been operating, it's not working. The things have changed. Amazon exists. When you can order something that is coming from some massive facility that has been planted and built on what probably used to be once viable farmland. And whatever that thing is has been magically delivered within 24 hours, if not less, to your front door. Canada Post can't compete with that. In the same way that AI is revolutionizing so many things and so many areas and is going to create a really challenging place for so many people who are like, wow, I've been made obsolete by a computer. Amazon and a pandemic have so significantly changed consumer behaviors, and Canada Post hasn't been able to keep up with those changes. And this is where we're at. And I can understand why postal workers it's the way things have worked, and it's worked for them. I'm outside of wages. So Canada Post wanting to move to a delivery model that is 7 days a week, I can understand why people like their weekends, right? Like, anyways, it's just all too much. From the same news release from Canada Post, it said Canada Post's estimated parcel delivery market share has eroded from 62% prior to the pandemic to 29% in 2023. At the same time, transaction mail continues to decline in both volume and as a revenue source. In 2006, Canadian households received an average of 7 letters per week. In 2023, they received 2. Okay, there's 2 things as an aside, 2 asides I have. First of all, transaction mail. Can we just is that like generally letter mail? Like, I can use language that people understand. And also, I have a beef because as I get older, I don't just get fun mail. Like, we get bills as we get older. And so I just maybe want more fun mail. Anyways, that has nothing to do with us. But it goes on to say in 2023, revenue fell by $240 million or 3.3% compared to the prior year, dropping across all 3 lines of business: parcels, transaction mail, and direct marketing. So, flyers, things, all of that's what would fall into direct marketing. The 2023 loss before tax widened by $200 million from a loss before tax of $548 million in 2022. Like, it's loss upon loss upon loss. What we do need to clarify is apparently they have been able to cover these shortfalls, not by going to the federal government and saying, we've lost, billions of dollars. We need you to top us up. They have been able to cover these losses with money that they have set aside from previous years. So it's not they're not receiving an outright subsidy. They're not getting taxpayer money, essentially. Canada Post, as a Crown corporation, according to the Canadian Press, last made money in 2017. So using what is called cash on hand, so money made from operations and pension plan funding relief permitted by legislation, said that according to the company's 2023 annual report, is how they've been able to cover the shortfall. But honestly, the bottom line is just that Canada Post as a business, as a Crown corporation, is just not sustainable, and they have to change. And the fact that this has been done at the expense of small businesses, charities, people in rural and remote areas, people with postal boxes who can't receive anything at December at Christmas time is absolutely absurd. The good news is that this is hopefully almost over for all of us. So that's what I have to say about this. And I'm hoping that the next episode of the briefing note is going to be something a little bit less serious, less, catastrophic to small businesses and charities and people who live in rural and remote areas, and is going to be maybe a little bit lighter. So thanks for listening. A reminder to like, subscribe, whatever people say, do all of the things so that this thing that I'm doing can hopefully reach more people, and we could keep having conversations that I hope just make sense. Thanks.